Yeah, I have a cool report coming up in the next segment. Aaron Anderson from TexasScorecard.com. You hear usually Brandon Walton's from Texas Scorecard or someone, Sarah Gonzalez. There's a lot of people from Texas Scorecard that ended up on the show. But she actually went to the meeting I was talking about on yesterday's show in Collin County, their commissioners court or judges or something or other. They were having a public hearing on the Sharia city. It's called Epic City. It's going to be, or it's proposed for eastern Collin County on the other side of the lake, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And they want to make like a 400-acre Muslim themed. It almost sounds like a theme park, but it's not a theme park. You know, it'll have a mosque and a school and a bunch of residences there and some stores and some doctors, you know, some healthcare facilities, and it's all going to be Islamic themed. And there's a lot of people who are a little concerned about that. And so one of the things that comes up over and over and over, and I was listening to some of the meeting that was yesterday in Collin County, lasted a while. A lot of people were bringing up the fact that this idea of Sharia is incompatible with us, not only because of our Constitution, but because just generally speaking, we're a Christian nation. Not that everyone has to be a Christian to live here, but this nation was definitely found on the Judeo-Christian philosophy and principles. And being a Christian nation, there is some clear incompatibilities with both our culture and our Constitution. So both socially and legally, to let Sharia law just segregate itself like on purpose within our society, that's something that doesn't fly in a Christian nation. So one of the big comebacks to that is we're not a Christian nation, we're a secular nation. The founding fathers, most of them weren't even Christian anyway, or just whatever the excuse is. People like to act like this was just some secular experiment, and the foundational philosophy of it has nothing to do with the classic Judeo-Christian underpinning of Western civilization. The best comeback to that is from Charlie Kirk. So I went through and I pulled it out. He was sort of asked the same thing at one of his little college campus stunts where he goes and lets people ask him questions. And then I edited down so it would fit cleanly in this show. So before we talk about the Sharia city meeting in the next segment, I want you to hear this from Charlie Kirk. This is the best explanation on how America is a Christian nation.
Remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. You could even in actually, 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. Common law is an outgrowth of the Scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law. Presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal. Neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which we get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral, religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution two things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution? Did you know that there were church services held in the Supreme Court building as late as the Jackson presidency in the 1820s? But going back to this idea of separation of church and state, and again, I could riff on this ad nauseum because it's just so ridiculous, right? Is that it's not biblical because first, it's not biblical. It's not constitutional because you go a layer deeper. People that even say that, do you believe in separation of morality and state? Nobody does. So all laws are a reflection of morality, and all morality comes from somewhere. There is no such thing as neutral morality, and we believe what the founders believed because they put it in the halls of Congress, they put it in the Supreme Court, and they put it all throughout the country, which is that the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, is the core morality of how a society and a civilization should exist, right? The Ten Commandments of every person. And finally, and this is the kicker, if the founding fathers were not Bible-believing church-trained Christians, why did they put Leviticus on Liberty Bell? Not John, not Psalms, not Proverbs, not Genesis, Leviticus. Most Americans can't spell Leviticus. Leviticus 25:19, proclaim liberty throughout the land of which you are in. It is one of the most sinister, most unsubstantiated lies that does not come up against any sort of academic scrutiny. This idea that founding fathers were a bunch of Enlightenment common law deists. The reason they hate it is because the reason they must say this is that if we actually go back to our Christian roots, and we go back to where we once were, it's America's best hope for revival and for a great future.
All right. I told you. Wasn't that the best explanation you've ever heard? So with that as our rhetorical foundation, so we had a meeting last night for the Sharia city proposal that's happening in East Collin County. And, man, I forget there is even an East Collin County. Like there's a whole nother part of Collin County on the other side of the lake. Yes, there is. And there's a big 402 acre tract of land. We talked about it for a big chunk of the show just yesterday, in advance of the meeting that was happening yesterday during the show. In fact, the meeting went on for a long time, and there were quite a few people. Like we talked about the meeting that happened yesterday in Bedford about the viral video fight between the junior high kids, and only 4 parents showed up. Well, at this meeting, it's reported that over 400 people showed up. Aaron Anderson was there from TexasScorecard.com. Welcome, Aaron Anderson. So tell us all about the meeting. We missed it yesterday. What did we miss?
Oh, well, thanks for having me, James. I did not miss it. Luckily, I arrived early and was able to get in the main room and watch all the action. I can't tell you exactly how many people were there because there were so many in the overflow, but it was definitely a hot topic for a Monday afternoon.
All right. All but 2 of the people that spoke were against it. What was the general, the common thread of reasons why people oppose this?
All right. Well, just to backtrack for people that don't know, the project is called Epic City. Epic is short for the East Plano Islamic Center. This particular new proposed development is not in Plano, however. It's in an unincorporated part of Collin County, which means that the county will have the authorization when they start to submit their paperwork for their plans, which they have not done yet. So they're nowhere near submitting their plans. But the idea in their marketing brochure is that this will be a sort of an enclave for Muslim families, residential, senior living, school, a mosque, of course, all the amenities, all for this community to come and live together. Well, the problem being that that's not really allowed to have neighborhoods that are only restricted by religion. Just like you can't exclude a religion, you can't only include one. Now, the developers have since backpedaled and said, "Oh no, we are. This is simply a master plan community. All are welcome. It just so happens that every single amenity, every single potential customer we've marketed to, and all of our sales pitches are specifically for Muslims." And that, of course, was the major point of contention for all these Collin County residents who said, "Hey, this is America. This is Texas. We don't do things like that. We don't have these exclusive compounds where people are choosing, to not assimilate into the general culture and society." And it's flat out discriminatory, as some of the investigations that the state agencies have started doing into how this group is doing business.
Yeah, kind of my next question there is, we already have the governor who's looking into it. We have the Texas Rangers are opening an investigation into the East Plano Islamic Center. We have the Texas Workforce Commission opening an investigation. Texas Fair Housing Act is being looked into. So they've already got a lot of attention from regulators and people like that. This doesn't sound like it's going to happen.
Well, we shall see. There are certainly a lot of, as you say, red flags that have been raised on a lot of levels, whether it's local regulations, state laws, or federal. That they've triggered a lot of again, things that don't look on the up and up, and from the original center that's operating now, as well as the development group they've put together to market the new developments. And they have sort of an interesting scheme going on. You, instead of just buying a lot like you normally would in a new neighborhood opening up, the potential new residents are purchasing like shares in a sort of a group buy-in into this community. So you don't buy a lot, you buy a share, which then entitles you to a lot. So that has raised some red flags.
Because then you're a part owner in the whole endeavor. You're an investor, not some guy who's buying a plot within a subdivision. And that kind of bothers me. For one thing, if it takes $80,000 to buy into this share, you're not just getting a lot. Are they just going to have one legal entity that owns the whole thing that these investors are just a part of? Because if so, do they classify that as a mosque, and does no one have to pay property taxes after that? Or they're doing some unconventional things here besides just making a Muslim themed subdivision. I mean, some of this is getting real sketchy, the stuff that you uncovered yesterday.
Well, that's right. And we the public didn't really know all of what was going on. And so, fortunately, County Judge Chris Hill, who's the county judge there in Collin, kind of moved up an informational meeting he had been planning because there were so many questions being raised. He had, the county lay out sort of what their role will be at such time if they start submitting their actual plans for this development. Then the county can review them and see if they're up to snuff as far as that goes. But meanwhile, at the state level, this, like you said, unconventional financing system is being looked at as well. And so you've got a lot of people involved in looking at how this is set up. So we don't know. They own the land. I went out to look because there's a lot of talk. I said, I want to see. Well, it's a big chunk of empty farmland and some really bad roads. I mean, the first thing they would have to do is build all new roads just to get any trucks back there to do anything else. It's mostly a marketing dream right now, and whether the ways that they've gone about trying to develop it end up triggering enough red flags that they're not able to go forward, we shall see.
Talk about the meeting you're going to tonight.
Yes, well, a similar development happening in Blue Ridge, Texas, also in northeast Collin County. But this particular planned development, a pair of developments by these same groups, is actually within city limits. So it's within the Blue Ridge city, which makes it a completely different setup as far as, rules and regulations. They have to go through, it's called zoning. And so the city of Blue Ridge has delayed in the past making a final determination whether they're going to rezone this particular property from, I think it's agricultural now, in order to allow this residential complex to be built. So we shall see. It's not on their agenda tonight, but I do know a lot of concerned residents are planning to show up like they did last month. We were there last month. It was on the agenda and they tabled it. And I suspect they are not going to do anything new tonight because city elections are coming up. And so I feel like they may be wanting to, see where the state is going on these issues, and B, let the next group, whoever gets elected after this election, then look at this and review it.
All right. Round of applause for the great reporting of Erin Anderson for TexasScorecard.com. Thank you so much for going to these awfully boring meetings, but they're important, so I appreciate you passing along the info.
They're very important, so thanks for having me on to talk about them.
Good stuff. Thank you, Erin Anderson. And listen, this is why I go to TexasScorecard.com on an almost everyday basis. If you're looking for alternative news that doesn't make you pull your hair out, that's one place. Sort of history is being made right now. I mean, it'll be in the book somewhere, but Cory Booker, senator, has been on the floor of the Senate since 7 o'clock last night, or maybe that's 7 o'clock Eastern time. Last night, I think is what it is. So it'd be 6 o'clock our time. So a little bit after the James show ended yesterday, this dude got up there and he started speaking. Now, if you go to his social media, you can see that he put up, before he went on to the podium in the Senate, he said, I'm going to go give the longest speech in Senate history. He's still up there. He has been on the floor of the Senate. He spoke all evening, overnight while we were all sleeping, and then this morning through the WBAP morning show and Casey and Vince. And when I sat down to do the show, he was speaking still, and they now have a countdown going on Yahoo News for him to break the record for the longest speech in U.S. Senate history. The current record for the longest speech in Senate history is Strom Thurmond of South Carolina. Strom Thurmond. You mean when he was a Democrat? Yeah. What was he? He was doing a filibuster. What was it? Oh, the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Yeah, that's the last time. That's what the record is. When the Democrats were filibustering civil rights of our black neighbors. It's a great record to break there. So here he is. He's still going. Let me just pull it up here. I went over to C-SPAN. He's still going.
Saying it is to extend or make permanent the Trump tax cuts. The overwhelming disproportionate benefit went to the wealthiest amongst us and the wealthy corporations.
So he's not saying anything of note. So he's been going now for 22 hours and 38 minutes. 22 hours, 38 minutes. So that would put him starting at 6 o'clock our time yesterday. Now, technically, this isn't a filibuster because a filibuster is when you use the Senate's rule for unlimited debate to sort of block or delay a procedure or a vote. And there wasn't anything yesterday. So he's not even filibustering anything. He just wants to break the record. He's doing this. Why? For attention, to make a headline, to control the narrative, to get some I don't know, to get some FaceTime because he's going to be asked about this and it'll be in the record books. And this is really good for Cory Booker, but it doesn't actually do anything. And it's almost like the perfect encapsulation of his whole movement and his whole party right now. You don't actually need to do anything. You just need to go out and get some attention and act like you're doing something and scream loud for a really long time and get real emotional and get real upset because some people are enjoying this because they're cutting out little pieces of it, like the more fiery pieces. This was from right before the James show started. This was 1:30 our time. And little clips like this are being passed around social media right now, but
it's a call to the conscience of this nation to say, I will not stand for another American to lose their health care for a billionaire. I will not stand for another veteran who's dedicated to stopping the suicide of other veterans to lose their job. I won't stand for the air quality in my community.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's all I hear too. So let me go ahead and play you the backup because I think he's going to pass that record here in about 2 hours and then walk off and be done with it. But this is how he explained himself. Do you have the dump button piled up? Because I didn't preview this before I played it, which is usually a no-no. But I trust that Cory Booker didn't say any cuss words on his social media feed here.
To be recognized, and when I am not going to stop speaking. I'm going to not stop standing. I'm going to go for as long as I'm physically able to go. I've been hearing from people all over my state and indeed all over the nation calling upon folks in Congress to do more, to do things that recognize the urgency, the crisis of the moment. And so we all have a responsibility, I believe, to do something different, to cause, as John Lewis said, good trouble, and that includes...
What? Fantasy.
I'm about to go to the Senate for...
And then it just repeats because it's on Twitter. What fantasy? What are you talking about? People are asking me, we got to do more. Well, this isn't doing anything. This is talking. Talking isn't doing something. Just being rhetorical means no action is happening. You're not passing a bill. You're not proposing a bill. You're not changing a law. You're not hiring anyone, firing anyone, impeaching a judge. You're not doing it. You're just talking. That's not real. That's not a thing. You're not even stopping a bill. You're not even doing a real filibuster. You're just like, I'm going to go break the record because we got to do something. Well, that's not doing it. Go break 10 records. Y'all just keep doing this. Just keep doing this for the rest of the year. Just tie down the Senate until we have to vote on the budget again and at the end of September. That's for all I care. This isn't even doing anything. This is just a showboat. Explain to me what he's accomplishing besides showboating, besides breaking the record, besides erasing another ugly stain of Democrat Party history because the previous record was a Democrat filibustering the rights of your black neighbors. Anyway, you're going to hear a lot about that when you get home. It's going to be on the news. It's going to be all over your phone. And I just thought you'd like to get it ahead of it. While it's still happening, it's not even over yet, but he's probably going to break the record. He only has to go less than 2 more hours now. So, yay. Congratulations. What an accomplishment. What did you accomplish? I gave the longest speech in the floor of the Senate history. Okay, but what did you actually do? Well, I gave a speech. Yeah, but how did that help anybody? How did that change anything? This is like the same sort of mindset. That has any progress or achievement been done by someone holding a foam core sign outside a city hall on a Saturday? Why do y'all think this is doing something? Blocking traffic does not improve the world. Giving a long speech does not help anybody. Well, yeah, but we're just fighting against Orange Man Bad. You're not fighting, you're talking. That stuff just cracks me up. These people, when they pass gas, they turn around real quick and sniff it, don't they? They just love themselves. We're now living in a new world, the world of artificial intelligence. Some are kind of scared of it and think that one day the robot revolution is going to take over, and that'll probably happen on a long enough time scale, but we'll be long gone by then. We're about to enjoy a new golden age of human and computer cooperation, man and machine working together in this new AI era. And my next guest is going to help us make a little more sense of it. John Schultz is back on the James Show. Welcome, John. How's it going?
It's going really well today. How about yourself?
Well, I'm good. I'm excited about the AI, because some people are worried it might take away their jobs or whatever. But I'm looking on the bright side because if I can perfect AI just a little bit more than I have now, we could totally replace our board op, Garrett, and put him out of a job and replace him with AI that's probably a lot cheaper and has a better attitude and less likely to miss work because I got to go to the dentist. But John Schultz, I mean, on average here, are more people seeing AI as a force for good or bad?
I believe everybody's seeing it as a force for good. I've always believed, and it's kind of one of those I'll call them Schultzisms that. Technology is agnostic. It can be used for good or for evil. It depends upon the person behind the screen. And so what you're seeing in today's workforce and in today's world is a lot of good has come out of technology. And I see a lot of good coming out of the AI world. We're seeing that with our own business. We're a small software company focusing in a small industry, the golf industry. And all we're trying to do is help out that poor player, enhance his game, and enhance the experience for all players. And so we actually use AI to do that. And so we have these golf course superintendents scratching their head every day, their hands in the dirt, and they're just trying to basically do the very best job they can. And one of the things they don't have is unlimited time. And so we're giving back some of that time. And that's where AI really helps out. It really accelerates the decision-making process. I like to say we're building an intelligent decision-making process for that practitioner out in the field. So I see it all good. The internet, everybody was fearful of the internet in the 90s of, this is going to change the world and we won't need anybody. But what you see today, all that technology advancements from the 90s through the 2000s up to current today have been all good. There are some evil people out there, and it's important for us to be aware of it and to use our reasoning skills to basically identify good from bad.
Well, it's not good if you're like a newspaper printing service, but for the rest of us, like on average, it's been a net positive here. So talk about, you've had to integrate AI into your workspace and help other people integrate AI into their workspace. What's your advice to people out there who are small business owners or managers at their place of work, and they want to start integrating AI into their workplace?
Well, I tell everybody when they start to look at new technology, you need to crawl before you walk, and you need to walk before you run. And so you're not going to be able to grab it all in one single day. And it's just like with any technology. I remember having conversations with people when PCs first came out. And they said, well, gee, you're so further advanced than I said, well, yeah, I pretty much have been around the industry for a long time. But just take it one step at a time. Today is the best day to start learning all about AI. There's all kinds of free things out there. You can go to, I'd like to suggest OpenAI. I'm a little bit more comfortable with that than the DeepSeek. That's a Chinese product. And, I feel that there's some nefarious issues happening with the Chinese, and they're basically collecting data that we really don't want them to be collecting. But if you're just careful with it, use it to explore, use it to write an email. I use an artificial intelligence product we have here in our office. I'll write a nice, crafty email, and I think I wrote the best email around, and I'll throw it into AI to say, polish and enhance this in a professional manner. And wow, it comes back. It makes me a literary wizard whenever it comes to writing emails. So I think it's a tool to basically find a comfort zone within your workspace or within your daily lives. You could even look up, if you're at home wanting to cook dinner, say, hey, I'm trying to cook dinner. Give me the latest and greatest recipe for me to cook, use hamburger meat to basically cook something for tonight. And it comes back. It'll simply amaze you on a daily practice. And those are little innocent things that you can start to understand what the capabilities of AI are and what's not available.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John Schultz. Got to run, but you can find him at johnschultz.com. He's got a good little podcast that you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts, or I see it on YouTube as well. John Schultz. All right. That's going to about do it for the James Show. We have WeatherCon, the 2025 WeatherCon. It's coming up at the end of the month. Now that it's April, I can actually say that. April 26th, Saturday at 9:30 in the morning until 1:30 p.m. Frontiers of Flight Museum. For more information, go to WBAP.com. Mark Levin's next. I'm James Parker. This is News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.